We're following breaking news at this hour. A citywide curfew is now in effect in Columbus as protests continue for a third straight day.
Governor Mike DeWine.
Thank you, Mike. And our team coverage continues now with Jeff Reddick, who's live downtown. And Jeff, walk us through exactly what you've been seeing today. Some gyms have already reopened after a judge ruled last week that there could be no penalties for reopening. But many gym owners are waiting until the initial reopening date decided by the governor's office. That's this coming Tuesday. Kaylee Gunderson is live in Hilliard tonight with more on what you can expect if you head out to the gym this week. Kaylee. And the debate over face coverings has become a hot topic across the country. Here in the state of Ohio, it's not a requirement. Governor Mike DeWine offering his take this morning on Meet the Press. We're following breaking news tonight. Columbus police have declared an emergency in downtown Columbus as protesting continues for the third day. As the state of Ohio continues the reopening process, one of the state's most iconic attractions remains closed until further notice. Cedar Point was supposed to kick off its 2020 season on May 9th, but they haven't been able to open their gates just yet because of concerns over the coronavirus. Governor DeWine says they're simply going to have to wait just a bit longer. Developing tonight, with all 50 states now starting the reopening process, there is some concern about how to do it safely. This as some areas continue to see a rise in cases of the virus. Trevor Alt has the very latest. And this Sunday, churches across Central Ohio continue to put plans in place to reopen their doors. But tonight, some are ready, but others think it's a bit too soon. Jesse Starkey with the story of one church trying to simply sort it all out. And remember, you can stay up to date with every announcement from the governor on the WSYX app and our website. That's abc6onyourside.com. Get updated on the pandemic by clicking on coronavirus under the news tab. Columbus police still gathering evidence in a late night shooting on the east side of the city that landed a 16-year-old in the hospital. This all happened just before 10 last night. New information tonight in the death of a 7-year-old boy. Columbus police charging his mother with murder, and his stepfather is facing charges of endangering children. Investigators say around 8:30 Saturday night. All right, turning now to the forecast, Caroline. I tell you what, yet another beautiful day across the area. Went for a jog today. It was hot.
Did you feel like summer, like getting a little sticky a little bit quicker?
I liked it, though. You know me, I like the heat, the humidity. No complaints this way.
Right.
Good evening. I'm Rodney Dunigan. Happening tonight, we've got an exclusive one-on-one with President Trump. His thoughts tonight as states across the country reopen and what we can look forward to in the weeks ahead. Happening right now, another 84 people have died from the coronavirus across the state. That's more than double the number reported on Friday, and that doesn't include the 19 other cases listed as probable. In the meantime, a legal fight is brewing since the state started to reopen bars and restaurants. New video given to us shows the moment a Columbus bar was charged by the state for failing to social distance. Jeff Reddick is breaking this all down for us tonight. He's live in the Arena District. And Jeff, this bar owner feels that he's being targeted. Tonight, the Butler County Health Department is investigating several cases of COVID-19 at Miami University. Officials say the outbreak could be connected to a number of off-campus parties. Happening this weekend, churches across the country are set to open on Sunday. The president calling them essential and saying the doors should be open. But it's stirring up a bit of debate across the U.S. Christine Fazal has the very latest. All new tonight, sweet relief. People throughout Central Ohio were able to get out and enjoy the sunshine after days of rain. But of course, life is still not completely back to normal. Mary Smith has a look. All right, hopefully you enjoyed the weather today because Caroline Cohen is tracking more wet weather headed our way. Caroline, how much rain are we talking about? Developing tonight, the search for 18-year-old Maddie Bell coming to a happy end. The teen had been missing for nearly a week. Jesse Starkey broke this story early this morning that she was found safe and sound. She has the very latest on that investigation tonight. All new tonight, honoring and remembering those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to the country. Today, flags were laid at Forest Lawn Memorial Gardens ahead of Memorial Day. Now, Memorial Day will likely look a bit different this year. At national cemeteries, volunteer groups were prohibited from placing flags, although individuals still could. In the state of Ohio, the state is urging people to stay in groups of 10 or fewer to place those flags and also remember that 6-foot social distance. Graduation ceremonies are also different this year for students across Central Ohio. Today, a special gathering for a group of students who couldn't have the typical celebration. Developing tonight, plans are still in the works for this year's Memorial Tournament. We do know the event will go on, but it's not clear just yet on if fans will be allowed. But organizers are pushing for it. Clay Hall with the update tonight. All right, take a look at this. Social distancing isn't just an American problem. New video from Italy tonight shows beaches there are seeing the same kinds of crowds that we're seeing in New York, California, and in Florida. Police are walking the coast, urging people to simply stay apart. And finishing touches are also being put on community parks across the area. Caroline Cohen live with that side of the story tonight. Caroline. As for swimming pools, we know that Upper Arlington is planning to reopen June 8th. That's 2 weeks from today. Hilliard could make a final decision at tomorrow's meeting after initially saying that swimming pools wouldn't open. Apartment complexes can open theirs up right now, but they do have to set guidelines. Also, the CDC releasing these guidelines. All right, let's talk about some of the ceremonies held today for Memorial Day. Always a somber moment at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. President Trump and the vice president on hand for a wreath laying at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Even though there are no tours, the guard change ceremony still happens every 30 minutes. And a similar situation today at Oak Grove Cemetery in Delaware. Vietnam veterans gathering to honor the friends they lost in battle. Tom Bosco was there to capture the moment.
WSYX News.
And a wreath is on display right now at the State House. Governor DeWine placing it there himself over the weekend in Veterans Plaza on the 3rd Street side of the building. He says even though there couldn't be a big event this year, it's important to remember their sacrifices. And if you happen to be inside the State House, in a normal election year, these two would be crisscrossing the country to spark interest in their platforms. At least for now, Biden has to settle for those virtual rallies as the president visits factories and toss-up states. Scott Thuman breaks down how the virus is creating major issues this election season. Another election staple, of course, that's up in the air right now are both parties, those nominating conventions. Now, President Trump is threatening to move the Republican gathering in August from Charlotte if the Democratic governor doesn't allow full attendance. It's not clear which other city would be in that position to host it. Meanwhile, the Democrats are scheduled for mid-August in Milwaukee, likely not to have full attendance. So thanks a lot, Jim. And finally tonight, you still have time to see one of the area's great tributes to the fallen. This year, with a little extra meaning, photojournalist Dennis Spronk takes us to Westerville's Field of Heroes. Each service member with an Ohio connection. Haley Nelson is live along the lawn of First Community Church. And Haley, each of these flags display a different story. Memorial Day is considered the unofficial start to the summer season. Traditionally, every year we see beaches full across the country. This is a look at some of the beaches from South Carolina to Indiana to Atlantic City. Now, as you can see, concerns over the coronavirus didn't keep many beachgoers away. Paige Hubbard kicks off our team coverage as we see how millions spent Memorial Day across the country. Right now, casinos in Las Vegas are closed, but Nevada's governor has set June 4th as a tentative date to start the process of opening the strip back up. He's expected to reveal more details tomorrow about the process and what guests should expect when they go back to the casino. So what about casinos right here in the state of Ohio? Tonight, we're digging into the lessons coroners from around the state are learning from their patients. In Montgomery County, the coroner's office says they now have enough kits to perform that testing. Brian Caswell tells us the importance of testing. One woman knows all about making history when it comes to space. Denise Sawyer sits down with the 82-year-old woman who was assigned to not 1, but 7 moon landings. The most recent flood just last week, she fears whenever the forecast calls for rain, that more flooding will soon follow.
It was very frustrating.
Paige Winfrey telling us she's fed up.
Our house had 16 inches of water in the garage, and we had about 7 inches inside.
These snapshots from the latest flood at her Bork Road property, the 4th time this has happened in just the last 2 years. These images from each incident, unfortunately for her, it's become common.
We just don't know when it's going to happen.
Winfrey believes the problem lies with the city, possibly a drainage issue with the sewer system, telling us she's called 311 and reached out to the city dozens of times.
It comes so quickly that the sub pumps can't keep up with it.
6 on your side digging for answers. We've contacted the Department of Public Utilities trying to figure out what's leading to the problems and what can be done to help as we try to help sort it all out. The latest cleanup continuing, a pain Winfrey is tired of.
We've lost, I think at this point, it's been 2 or 3 different dryers, 2 to 3 different couches. Basically, we have to gut the whole downstairs every time this happens.
Winfrey also stresses that her family simply can't afford to continue to clean up and repair after every flood. It's too expensive, and she hopes the problem is addressed ASAP. Of course, we'll keep you posted. Rodney Dunigan, 6 on your side. Starting on June 1st, events of up to 300 people will be allowed, but businesses will have to follow some tough new guidelines. The work well underway at Via Vecchia Winery in Columbus. Crews getting the venue set to get back to business.
We need to make sure we're prepared.
Owner Michael Elmer telling us the past few months have been tough. This would typically be the height of their busy wedding season. The next big event here, not until August.
It's been really devastating.
With large receptions in Ohio allowed within a matter of days, Elmer taking a number of safety measures. Signs clearly spelling out social distancing guidelines. He's also looking at plans to temperature check visitors. And this work being done to the outdoor space, creating more room.
As you look around, you can see it's like a park-like setting here.
Elmer also on a team of large venue owners trying to craft statewide rules to keep businesses safe and open.
I think we're waiting for a little bit more direction from our state officials to know for sure what we can and can't do.
Elmer is hopeful that the extra safety measures he's taking will be enough to keep customers at ease and also bring in that business that he so desperately needs. Rodney Dunigan, ABC 6 News. This evening, Governor Mike DeWine and Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther coming together in a united front. Their message was clear. They support the protesters and their calls for justice, but the violence and looting has to come to an end.
Acts of violence cannot and will not be tolerated. This violence must stop.
A stern message from Governor Mike DeWine, together with Mayor Andrew Ginther and Police Chief Thomas Quinlan calling for peace. That message coming after 2 nights of chaos on downtown streets.
Enough. We have worked with the protesters. We have listened to their calls for change, and we have worked to make sure we can provide an environment that they can have their voices heard. But the protests have transformed from lawful, peaceful protest into criminal riots.
Ginther stressing it's a time of high emotion for the community, but pleading for calm, trying to assure protesters concerns regarding issues of race will be addressed, but the vandalism and damage to property we've seen has to end.
We're now at a point where we can no longer tell the difference between who is protesting for change and an end to racism and who has only chaos and destruction in mind.
Tonight, as the city of Columbus falls under a curfew and the National Guard monitors the streets, city and state leaders are hopeful for brighter days ahead. And of course, with those measures taken tonight, things a lot more peaceful out there.
We're going to go back live to Mike McCarthy, bringing us new views of what's happening in our city tonight. Mike?
So, Stacey, what we did was we walked just a couple blocks down around from our location we started the broadcast at along East Broad Street. We are now along East Gay Street, right outside the School Education Retirement Services Group, I believe, the retirement services organization for school workers here in the state, where they have a lot of damage here tonight.
This evening, Governor Mike DeWine and Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther coming together in a united front. Their message was clear. They support the protesters and their calls for justice, but the violence and looting has to come to an end.
Acts of violence cannot and will not be tolerated. This violence must stop.
A stern message from Governor Mike DeWine, together with Mayor Andrew Ginther and Police Chief Thomas Quinlan calling for peace. That message coming after 2 nights of chaos on downtown streets.
Enough. We have worked with the protesters. We have listened to their calls for change, and we have worked to make sure we can provide an environment that they can have their voices heard. But the protests have transformed from lawful, peaceful protest into criminal riots.
Ginther stressing it's a time of high emotion for the community, but pleading for calm, trying to assure protesters concerns regarding issues of race will be addressed, but the vandalism and damage to property we've seen has to end.
We're now at a point where we can no longer tell the difference between who is protesting for change and an end to racism and who has only chaos and destruction in mind.
Tonight, as the city of Columbus falls under a curfew and the National Guard monitors the streets, city and state leaders are hopeful for brighter days ahead. And of course, with those measures taken tonight, things a lot more peaceful out.